I'm Natasha Kirchek, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, it's official. The police have recommended criminal indictments for the Israeli Prime Minister. Israel arrests an Australian woman accused of horrific sex crimes in her home country. And stay tuned, because this might be the year that Israel finally snags first at the Eurovision. Get ready for the latest news in Israel. We have breaking news. After nearly a year of investigations, the police have just officially recommended that Prime Minister Netanyahu be criminally indicted for corruption on charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. Israel's Attorney General will now review all of the police's evidence and decide whether or not to file charges against Netanyahu. Mere minutes before the police's bombshell report went public, the Prime Minister addressed the nation in a live broadcast from his home, again denying that he'd done anything wrong.
בשנים הללו הופעלו לחצים כבירים לפתוח נגדי לא פחות מ-15 בדיקות וחקירות במטרה להפיל אותי מהשלטון. כולן החלו בכותרות מפוצצות, בשידורים חיים מהאולפנים, חלקן עם המלצות משטרה מרישות, בדיוק כמו הערב. כל הניסיונות הללו, בלי יוצא מן הכלל, הסתיימו בלא כלום. וכיוון שאני יודע את האמת, אני אומר לכם, גם הפעם הדברים יסתיימו בלא כלום.
These police findings, however, come as the worst-case scenario for Netanyahu because he's being accused of corruption in not one, but both of the probes he's under investigation for. The first alleges that he accepted illicit gifts from billionaire friends, whom the police also say should be indicted for bribing a government official. And the second accuses him of arranging favorable newspaper coverage for himself in exchange for agreeing to quash the paper's rival publication.
The Prime Minister Netanyahu, as I've said before as well, I believe the Prime Minister when he said he's innocent. Throughout the years, he has built his reputation as an honest and a trustworthy guy and leader. And I believe that this is the case now as well.
Netanyahu has stressed that not all recommendations actually result in criminal charges. But his former finance minister, Yesh Atid party leader Yair Lapid, has just testified against him as a witness to alleged corruption. And that may not bode well.
It's a sad day for Israeli democracy that a prime minister is suspected in bribery. Unfortunately, the reason why we in the opposition believe that Netanyahu should remove himself from office is not only because of what he's suspected of, but because he attacked all of the establishments of the democracy of Israel on his way to try and clean himself from this. This is why we believe really he should remove himself even until this whole thing is sorted out legally.
Attorney General Avichai Mendelblit will now spend the next weeks or possibly months reviewing all of the evidence. It's now up to him whether or not Netanyahu will stand trial. Joining us now on the phone is investigative journalist Akiva Bigman from the Israeli newspaper Israel Hayom to take a deeper look into the police recommendations against the Israeli Prime Minister. Now, Netanyahu remains optimistic that he can lead the government even if there is an indictment, which may be true if his coalition remains intact. But let's talk about Naftali Bennett, because Bennett somewhat hinted today that he may be weighing his commitment depending on if there are charges. How could the coalition look if there are charges?
Well, first of all, I think the viewers should know that in the Israeli system, the police recommendations are actually meaningless. This is a conclusion of basically the investigations done by the police in the past year and a half. They have no legal meaning, and even legal experts in the past were against this procedure that for some reason became popular, that the police recommend on cases. It's bad for the legal process. I think it harms the democracy. And what happens is that these recommendations become a basic for political moves and maneuvers and different manipulations, and this is what we're experiencing right now. So
now, can the Prime Minister truly, do a job as demanding as leading the country if he's also fighting these charges in court, whether or not he's guilty or innocent? Isn't that a potentially major compromise of his time and attention?
Well, it could be, but this is exactly why this whole procedure is wrong. The police should give the conclusions to the Department of Justice. It should never have gone public. This only turns the police, makes the police part of the political game, and I think this is utterly wrong. If any government in Israel should fall because of police recommendations, because of publicizing, it's basically a PR move of the police. If that harms the political process in Israel, I think this will be terribly devastating, also for Netanyahu and his government, but also for future governments. Because this means that any police investigator, any investigation can actually destroy the whole political and democratic practice. We need to remember that the government and democracy was decided on by the popular vote, not by police officers.
Now, what would it take, at this point for Netanyahu to step down? Would that happen? Is there a chance that is going to happen?
Well, according to law, Netanyahu, any prime minister, has to step down only after there's been the court has decided he's guilty, and after he had his chance to appeal to the Supreme Court. So,
I mean,
Netanyahu is going to fight till the end. So,
I mean, and we're running out of time, but I would like a quick, response on how you think this looks to the outside world. Obviously, this is making international headlines, and he has to negotiate on a global scale.
Right. Well, obviously, this doesn't look too good in the outside world, but what is good is that the coalition is stable. All the partners know what's going on. Nobody really wants elections because this whole process is a political process. It's not a legal process. So what's important is the political meanings of the latest happenings, and we see that the coalition is stable. As you said, even if Taliban, people try to find maybe, different things you said different times, but everybody is in the coalition. The coalition is stable, and I think that means the government is stable. And one more thing people need to know, that even if this gets to the court and gets to indictment in the end, it will take about a year for this to happen as far as the process works.
All
so
right,
a year from now is the election time anyway, so we're stable for the time being.
All right, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
The first wave of nearly 20,000 asylum seekers from Africa will face either deportation or jail in less than 2 months. But we've just learned that some of those deportations could begin in just a few days. 200 asylum seekers have been informed that they only have until this Friday to decide whether to be deported to an unspecified country in Africa or else be put in Israeli jail forever. The government's controversial plan to deport an estimated 40,000 asylum seekers, mostly Christians from Eritrea and Sudan, has been met with fierce protest here in Israel and abroad. Netanyahu has branded this community as illegal infiltrators. The vast majority, however, say they fled war, genocide, and conscription in a slave army as refugees for a better life here in Israel. Indeed, most Western countries almost unanimously recognize these communities as refugees. To date, Israel has granted refugee status to only 11 out of nearly 40,000. Israel's Justice Minister has just delivered some fiery remarks related to the Jewish nation-state bill, arguing that keeping a Jewish majority in Israel is actually more important than protecting human rights. It's probably no coincidence that she also mentioned the asylum seeker crisis in this same speech, advocating their expulsion. But outrage against this controversial initiative, especially after Israel's interior minister said the deportations could be done by force, if necessary, continues to erupt. Doctors, ex-diplomats, lawyers, pilots, and even Holocaust survivors here in Israel and abroad have urged the government not to submit asylum seekers to possible, if not very likely, human trafficking in Rwanda and Uganda. The United Nations has offered to help Israel relocate asylum seekers to countries deemed safe, but with the very first deportations potentially about to begin in just 2 days, it remains unclear if the government is willing to listen. Israel's northern front has seemed to quiet down over the last 2 days, but now the Syrian government has just issued a major threat to Israel. Syria's deputy foreign minister is warning that if Israel attacks Syria again, the Jewish state will face, quote, more surprises.
وثق تماما أن المعتدي سيتفاجأ كثيرا لأنه ظن أن هذه الحرب حرب الاستنزاف اللي تعرضت لها سوريا خلال 7 سنوات قد جعلتها غير قادرة على مواجهة هكذا اعتداءات. ما حصل في الأسبوع الماضي كذب هذه القناعة لدى قادة الكيان الغاصب، وإن شاء الله سيرون مفاجآت أكثر كلما حاولوا الاعتداء على سوريا.
The threatening rhetoric comes mere days after Syrian anti-aircraft fire downed an Israeli F-16 jet. The jet was returning from bombing Iranian-backed targets in Syria after an Iranian drone flown from Syria entered Israeli territory illegally. The IDF responded to the breach of Israeli sovereignty by attacking several targets in Syria, and reports have suggested that Israel has taken out nearly 50% of Syria's air defense capabilities. Israeli security chiefs have continued to publicly state that air raids in Syria will continue as long as Iran continues to entrench itself near Israel's northern border and transfer weapons to Hezbollah. Israel has also been constructing a security fence on the border of Lebanon to protect itself, one which Lebanon claims is breaching Lebanese sovereignty. But it looks like a UN spokesperson in Lebanon has just told Turkish TV that Israel is not committing any violation by constructing the barrier. The new border is scheduled to be built by the end of 2018 to replace an older version. A major arrest has just been made in an unusual and disturbing case. Israeli police have detained an Australian woman who has a warrant out for her arrest in her home country. She's accused of sexually abusing children while working as a teacher. As if this wasn't disturbing enough, investigators believe she may have been faking a mental illness in order to evade extradition back to Australia. The suspect's name has not yet been cleared for publication. What is clear is that the ultra-Orthodox woman, 54 years old, was snagged in an undercover Israeli investigation conducted at the request of Interpol. Initially, the local courts had halted the extradition process to send the suspect back to Australia to stand trial, when it appeared she suffered from a mental illness and was therefore not fit to stand trial. But further investigation has apparently flipped that verdict. Both police and Israeli social services say the woman was faking these symptoms in order to conceal evidence. On those grounds, an Israeli judge has now ruled that she will remain in custody until the new extradition paperwork was complete. She's wanted for 74 charges of sex crimes against young girls. Ever felt lousy because you stuffed yourself with too much food? Well, a new Israeli technology may be able to help you stop overeating. And joining us now is Scott Hirsch, the founder of Zen Eating. Hello, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so tell us a little bit about your product, ZenSipper. What is it?
Well, Zen Eating is actually a device, a water sipping device that trains your mouth to eat less. Use it for 5 seconds before a meal, and it trains your tongue and your throat to shrink how much you swallow at a time. So the result is you eat slower, you enjoy your food more, and you feel full from less food. So in a nutshell, Zen Eating is the easy way to control how you eat.
And I'm assuming, obviously, your weight, right, as a result. I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are very happy that this exists now. How did you come up with this idea?
Actually, the idea came from research into swallowing. It turns out we swallow more than 2,000 times a day, and that affects enormous parts of our health. Originally, I worked on it for sleep apnea and snoring, and we sell that under the brand of ZenSipper. So that helps with snoring and sleep apnea, and that's what I use for myself, actually, to solve my sleep apnea. And as a result, in using it with people, they found that it helped them eat less, eat slower. So what it does is it brings practical swallowing techniques to the world that used to require lots of therapy and things like that, all in a simple device to sip water. And that's how we came up with it.
Now, is this meant for people who are looking to lose weight or who just want to stay healthy?
It's really for both, for people that want to eat more mindfully, eat more slowly, and or anyone that wants to lose weight by eating less food.
This is amazing. So is the product available right now? It's out on the market?
Yes, it's available on the market via the website, zeneating.com. And we also have other distributors as far as speech therapists and other people like that. I'm actually speaking on swallowing at the major speech therapist convention coming up this week. So we work with them, with hospitals, and of course we have a large distributor in Japan for the snoring and sleep apnea product, and we're signing one up with Europe, and it's starting to spread around the world.
Well, I mean, I think that this is going to be a hit in stores. I can imagine how many people are already thinking, where can I get this? All right, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, it's been over a half-century since World War II ended, but thousands of families across the globe are still trying to piece together what happened to their families after the Nazis invaded. Well, one organization has been archiving millions of personal items that the Nazis stole during the war, and now they're trying to hunt down their original owners. The massive archive of the International Tracing Service is stockpiled with literally warehouses of personal effects dating back to World War II. Those items include wallets, letters, photos, pocket watches, ID cards, photographs, wedding rings, all stolen by Nazis from their original owners when Germany invaded Europe. The service has just launched a global campaign under the hashtag Stolen Memory to track down the descendants of those owners and hopefully bring some closure after all of these years. To kick things off, the service has set up posting all over the UNESCO headquarters in Paris, featuring poster-sized photos of items in the archive. The idea is for people walking by to take a look and see if they recognize anything familiar in the photo, and inevitably track down the heirs of word by mouth. More outdoor exhibitions like this are scheduled to launch all over the world, and a huge collaborative website will open in just a few months. These items might have just been everyday run-of-the-mill stuff way back when, but today they could be the missing link for thousands of families still searching and praying for answers. All right, I gotta say, I called this next story. In fact, I said it would happen from the very beginning. The one and only Israeli performer Netta Barzilai has just won the Israeli competition, The Next Star, meaning she'll be representing Israel in the upcoming Eurovision. Joining me now is ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh with all of the details.
Yes, Natasha, I can vouch for the fact that you did indeed call this one. Yeah, we were actually together watching the first episode of the singing reality show, The Next Star. The show tests the best musicians in the Holy Land to find the one that will rep Israel in the Eurovision. And like you said, a huge congratulations to Netta Barzilai. The young artist used her now famous looper machine to wow the judges and, more importantly, the audience. She definitely did not give an average performance, and the more we got to see her, the more us as an audience fell in love with her.
Yeah, I mean, I love loopers, and I remember seeing Barzilai perform for the first time on the show. I think what makes her so unique is that she's able to take mainstream songs and do more than just the typical covers you see on shows like this. She essentially rewrites the music for some of them. So, you know, the fact that it's so unique and different isn't always a good thing. I mean, not everyone loves it. In fact, Ben El Tavori, one of the judges on the show, who's a big celebrity here in Israel, he thought our music was too repetitive. But what is your take, Emmanuel?
Right, he was very vocal about that, but my brother is a musician and always messes around with different sounds and techniques, different tools, so I love the concept that she brought to the show. She didn't just stand there and sing, she brought the newest aspect of music with a little techno-y electronic, which I absolutely love. I do have to say that Jonathan Mergi, the guy that got in second place on the show, was one of the most amazing vocalists I've ever heard. We call him a little mini Justin Bieber, but I do think Netta deserves the spot, the winner's spot. I think it's safe to say that Mergi will have a successful career after the show.
Yeah, I know. The world should already start watching out for the next Justin Bieber of Israel.
Yes.
Listen, I've been a Netta fan since day one, and hopefully we're going to get to have her on the show. I'm trying to make that happen. But I just really hope that the Eurovision judges are able to appreciate her music the way that we do, because, you know, Israel has actually won the Eurovision 3 times, in 1978, 1979, and most recently in 1998, which was obviously not that recently.
Right, exactly.
It's been quite a while, so I think
it's time for Israel to win.
Yeah, it's time for another Israeli win.
Definitely.
All right, thanks for joining us, Emmanuel.
Thank you.
All right, and on that note, joining us in the studio is another amazing Israeli musician, Adil Kochavi, who's traveled around the world playing his eclectic music. Let's take a look. All right, Adil, thank you for joining us. This is beautiful. I love this. I love this style. So tell us a little bit about what you do. This is Jewish Yemenite music?
Yeah, this is basically Jewish Yemenite music, which I mix with a lot of R&B and Latin, which basically it's all my background, like, and all my...
all of your roots. Okay,
yeah, my roots,
and I understand that you're actually working on a new album, right?
Yeah, I'm working on a new album now, which hopefully will be soon out.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all waiting. What kind of music are we going to be singing this album?
Pretty much the same, but I mean, I'm taking it to the next level always. So a bit of more reggae and a bit more like a sophisticated stuff, a bit more dance, just like this kind of stuff.
And you've already traveled around the world, right?
Yeah.
Performing with your band. You've been where have you been?
Actually, I've been to Europe. I've been to South America.
So all over. Okay.
Yeah.
And my question for you, and I think this is probably what all of our viewers want to know, is do you have any upcoming tours that we can check out?
Well, I have like next week. I'm going to play in Ashdod.
In Ashdod.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm going to have a
Here
great
in Israel.
concert. Yeah,
all right,
in
so
Israel.
I'm going to have to check that out for our viewers. Who aren't here, unfortunately. We do have a little treat for you. You can play a little music right now for us, can't you? You have an instrument right in front of you. Can we hear something?
Yeah, sure. I just want to say very quick that I'm going to feature there one of the best singers in Israel, which is Ariel Zilber. So he's going to play along with us.
So that's another reason to be listening.
Yeah.
Beyond obviously your incredible trumpet playing skills. All right, let's hear. I think we can end the show on that note, ladies and gentlemen. Now, unfortunately, we have to get back to the news, but thank you for joining us, Adil.
Thank you for having me here.
All right, well, here's some good news for you basketball fans. Not only is Israel's only NBA star Omri Caspi not leaving the Golden State Warriors, he's also coming off of a breakout performance. For days now, there's been speculation that Israel's biggest basketball star, Omri Caspi, is going to be traded from the Golden State Warriors because of his subpar performance. Well, it looks like that isn't going to be happening anytime soon because the high-flying baller got his act together, revealing his best performance of the season just in time. On Monday night, Caspi scored 19 points and nabbed 10 rebounds to help his squad get a big win over the Phoenix Suns. It's fair to say he proved himself to the team executives who considered trading him. Hopefully, Caspi will continue to perform at the same level in the coming games. His team is set to play the Portland Trail Blazers this evening. All right, now here's some major news for all of you football fans out there. 7 former and current NFL players have landed in the Holy Land for a week-long trip. This is a big deal because last year their trip was unfortunately barred by a lot of controversy. So who's joining? Well, the delegation is made up of current NFL stars Chris Harris Jr., Josh Norman, Vic Beasley, and get this, the NFL's only Jewish brothers, Jeff and Matt Schwartz. The players' busy schedule will include a dip in the Dead Sea, a visit to Jerusalem's Western Wall, and even a meeting with Israeli government officials, including the Prime Minister and the President. The pro-Israel organization American Voices in Israel put together the entire trip, and they say they hope it will, quote, help the American population get a deeper understanding of what's happening in Israel. Well, last year's NFL player trip didn't go as planned when 6 out of the 11 scheduled athletes decided to cancel their participation in the trip at the last minute. The players claimed they were being used as Israeli government mouthpieces, even though the Israeli government insisted the trip would show a balanced side of Israel. To avoid the controversy this time around, organizers decided to keep mum on who would be arriving and waited until the players landed in Israel to release statements to the media. Here comes our Hebrew word of the day. Love is in the air this Valentine's Day, so today's word is for that one surefire Valentine's gift that'll make any lady or man blush, the vered, or the rose. It doesn't get much more tried and true than a good old-fashioned vered, or rose. Sure, a vered comes with a few thorns, but hey, if that ain't a metaphor for love, I don't know what is. Yes, a big batch of vradim, or roses, can always be a lifesaver if you need a last-minute gift for your one and only, but friends, don't be afraid to mix it up a little. A vered is pretty, and a bunch of vradim plus chocolate can be lovely, but you know what I'd like this Valentine's Day? Just once, some friggin' respect. Oh yeah, and a love poem written in the sky. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. The winter heat wave looks to be getting worse. Expect a drop in temperatures with partly cloudy skies this evening. The low tonight should be about 52 or 11 degrees Celsius, and the high tomorrow will be around 72 or 22 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.52 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.